There you go. Now try again.
I was sign languaging because of The Shape of Water. That's what I did there.
Better.
Tear your tickets, take your seats. It's time for Popcorn Spoilers. I'm Dylan Button.
I'm Ryan Betson.
And we are on the road to the Oscars.
Second last week?
Yeah, second to last week. So we've watched some war movies. We've watched some coming of age movies. And now we're on the genre movies. We did watch some boring dramas last week. But now we're on the genre movies.
Forgetting those boring dramas.
So these are the movies that the Academy kind of shun in the past. So today we're going to be talking about the horror thriller Get Out and the fantasy monster movie romance, The Shape of Water.
Evening, Alex. How you doing? Yeah, no, like I would call these ones like the weird picks, I guess.
The weird picks.
Yeah, only because, as you said, normally these movies are shunned by the Academy.
Let's have a look at the Academy's history with shunned movies. So, horror movies, for example, Jaws was nominated for Best Picture.
Did it win? No.
No. The Sixth Sense was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, that didn't win.
Black Swan was nominated for Best Picture.
Oh, I guess that's sort of a horror movie, a bit of a thriller, yeah.
Yeah. And The Exorcist did win for Best Picture in 1973.
That was pretty cool at the time, though.
Yeah, that still is cool.
We were there.
And The Silence of the Lambs in 1991 Best Picture. just like a thriller. Sci-fi, which would be probably the closest thing to that, or fantasy, like the Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, won in 2003 as Best Picture. Sci-fi, Star Wars was nominated for Best Picture. The New Hope, 1977. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Avatar. Now this is where it gets to like modern day. So Star Wars, it's Star Wars. Come on, man. Like you wouldn't do that. E.T. It's a good movie. It's a heartfelt drama as well. But then it starts to show the Academy's like differing view from about 2009 onwards. So Avatar was nominated in 2009
because it's the highest grossing movie of all time and the 3D thing.
Mm-hmm. District 9 was nominated in the same year.
Political statement behind it.
Inception 2010.
That was just cool. And Nolan.
Gravity in 2013.
That was just visually impressive.
The Martian in 2015.
That was a good movie. I still don't know why it was there though.
Yeah. Arrival in 2016.
Never saw it.
There you go. So there are exceptions to the rule. But this year...
But yeah, these two that we're talking about tonight, they don't really seem like usual suspects for Best Picture nominations. And I think that's cool. I like that. I do like that.
All right.
You want to start?
Let's start with Get Out.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. So this is Get Out's plot synopsis. Now, I don't know how far to take it because we'll just start with the start. So,
it's spoilers.
Yeah,
remember that.
We are in spoilers. But I see it sums up the movie in a certain sense, and then there's the rest of the movie. Okay, so a young man named Chris is preparing to meet his girlfriend Rose's parents for the first time. Boom! That's it. However, he is skeptical of the introduction because Rose, who's white, hasn't told her parents that he is black. While she sees no importance in the colour of his skin, he worries that it may be an issue. So that could be the plot synopsis in itself.
Go to explain it.
Yeah, that's pretty much sets up. I'll add a little bit. So when they arrive at the vast estate, Rose's parents are friendly, if a little awkward. As the visit drags on, Chris slowly uncovers a twisted plot that may leave him at the mercy of the townsfolk. Yeah, I'd say I'd agree. So it was directed by Jordan Peele of Key and Peele in his directorial debut, written as well. Stars Daniel Kaluuya, Alison Williams, Catherine Keener, Bradley Whitford, and Stephen Root. And it was produced by Blumhouse Productions, or Bloomhouse Productions, who are renowned for good lately thrillers. horror thriller genre movies, where they throw like $5 million to $10 million.
They just throw in. They help the budget. They're like, hey, well, no,
they
fund the whole thing.
Yeah, so it's like $10 million. So it's a low budget movie, but they say you can do whatever you want. You know, they read the script.
We're investors, but do
exactly. Like you have creative license to do what you want. They of course approve the script, but they don't interfere with studio interference because it's such a small amount of money in movie scheme that they're just happy to break even. And this made a profit, $34 million at the box office, which for like I think it was $4.5 million. That's pretty good.
It's a pretty good turnaround. It's like 7 times.
Yeah. Exactly, and nominated for Best Picture. So if you get that pitch, I don't think Blumhouse has ever had.
The amount of people that would have picked this movie up, Best Picture nomination. Like I was interested in the movie, but I never actually like. Oh, I'll pick it up one day. And then I got the nom. I'm like, oh, maybe I do need to see this.
And how did you feel after you had seen it? Big hype. Sorry, I'll just interrupt. Big hype is that it was 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for the longest time until some dick reviewer gave it a bad review. And he's like a notorious dick reviewer. So it's 99% at the moment. But it was at the box office in the top 10 for like 2 months. So big box office compared to the budget. Fan favorite. Audience love it. Critics love it.
I did thoroughly enjoy it. I did there are minor issues that I have with it. Just some small things. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Because this was your movie of last year, wasn't it?
Number one, man. Number one.
Yeah.
And it came out early last year, like February.
Yeah, that's what tricked me. Because when I was like, I'm like, hang on, what was the movie like out a bajillion years ago? Because like whenever the end of the year comes, we do like Game of Year and stuff and Movie of the Year. And I always forget what happens at the start of the year. It's always like whatever happened in the last 6 months is like where I kind of look at my games. And then I'll look at the list. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, Horizon came out in March.
Usually they save the kind of big ones towards the end anyway.
Yeah, exactly,
movies
right?
and games. Yeah.
So like the same thing goes for movies. Look at the end of last year. I'm like, what movies did I want to see this year? I'm like, oh, and like, there's like, oh, Get Out. So I'm like, oh fuck, that was last year. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and usually people forget about those movies by the end of the year. All the awards season ones that we discussed kind of start coming out, and they're like, yeah, these are the ones that are aimed.
Because there is a very clear Oscar period. There's an Oscar run. Yeah. Like a couple months before that, there's a bit of a lead up, and then it's like bam, there's nominations.
Yeah.
Look, I really enjoyed it. I think the performances were fantastic. There were some familiar faces which I really liked in terms of the father and the mother of Rose, people that I've seen many, many times before. Rose had never seen before. Chris I'd never seen before. Overall, like when it was a thriller, I loved it. My heart was racing. It's in the same way of the original Conjuring. I fucking love. Like, I love the Conjuring series. The Conjuring 2, I think, is a much better film. But Conjuring 1
sequel
is great up until the third act. And the second, so it's all this thriller build up. You know, it's all about the idea of this possession in the house, and it's all fucking. You never see it, and then when the reveal comes, the third act, and you're like, oh, like the reveal actually kind of knocks the wind out of its sail a little bit, and I feel that Get Out is a little bit in that way too.
Get Out, no. This movie, I don't think I knew anything about. I just heard that it was good. It was getting a lot of buzz, and it was a horror thriller with like an African American tinge to it. So I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. And traditionally in horror movies, the black character is always the one that dies off early. That's like the trope joke. So it was like something that subverted it and turned it on its head is what I knew that it was. So I went and saw it late into its run, and it was a packed cinema with a lot of white people in it. I guess we don't have too many black people, but there are a lot of like that age group that the movie of the Armitage family represent. So I was like sitting in the corner watching this, and I was blown away by it. It was like, it's so clever in the foreshadowing and the setups and the payoffs.
Yes, that part is no question. So it's the best movie ever.
And that you can tell that it's something that he's worked on meticulously as his directorial debut. You always see the first kind of movies that people come out of the gates, especially talented directors. Like the Wachowskis did Bound first, but that wasn't really too popular. But Matrix, you can tell they worked years and years and years on it to layer it.
There's polish in there.
Exactly. So the way that it's nuanced and written, and double entendres and double meanings and metaphors upon using the same horror tropes that you see in other movies, but subverting them in different ways. It was incredible. Like Back to the Future is one, which is the best movie with setup payoffs of sporting small hints at the start that come up at the end. Like Doc Brown is at the start when it shows all the clocks in his apartment. He lives in a garage, I guess. So it goes across everything, and everything's like feeding the dog, and it's all on robotics and moves along, and the TV comes on. There's like a guy hanging off the clock, like he does at the end, hangs off the clock tower. Save the clock tower is what they're talking about at the start. Jennifer writes her phone number down to her grandma's house and gives it to Marty. So Marty's got the flyer with him, so he knows the exact date and time the electricity's going to strike. Everything is set up perfectly to pay off at the end. Shaun of the Dead, which is like one of my favorite comedies ever, is that as well. Like Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg work perfectly to have lines like, next time I see you, you're dead. And then he's dead next time they see him. Or they're talking about the Winchester, or, you know, cock it is one of the things they say. Oh, cock it, as in a negative connotation. And then at the end when he's fighting the gun, he's like, oh, cock it, because he forgot to cock the gun to shoot it. You know, like there's so many setups and payoffs. And this movie is that to 100. So watching it once, you're on the edge of the seat wondering what's happening, and then when it gets to that certain point, like you're saying in the third act, when you do realize what's happening after that, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what it's about, then it's like a race, like an escape movie, and that's thrilling into itself all the way up until the end credits. So I didn't feel like the concept of it, of what it was in the end, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it works so well in the metaphor of what they're going for.
I didn't borrow your shirt. I think my shirt's all gross and sweaty.
You're gonna
keep talking.
Do that. So yeah, it's incredible. I thought it was great. The way that it's meticulously shot as well. Like the movie starts with an opening scene of a black guy walking through a white neighborhood. And he's like, I don't know, I think he's talking to his girlfriend at first, which I assume would be, spoilers the person at the end. And he's kind of like mumbling to himself as well, like, I don't want to be in here. This is awkward.
I know I'm in a white neighborhood. Yeah. I know what's going on.
I've seen horror movies, bad things happen to black guys. And he's walking around, and it just felt very real. Like, you know, he's nervous in that situation. He's talking to himself. And it's all in one long take. And then he gets kidnapped, put into the back of the car. the shot lingers, the opening title start, and then it's got this really creepy like music, this song that and it's they're driving through the hills, and there's these really like Get Out massive titles, this kind of all like Bernard Herrmann, Alfred Hitchcock kind of score, way over the top bombastic. Like it's into that tradition of like older, more psychological horror movies like The Shining or Rosemary's Baby or Suspiria.
Yeah, that's true. There's a bit of Shining in here. Yeah.
It's got that vibe to it, and I love that.
Yeah.
It's not slasher stupid. It's like psychological horror, which is awesome.
and that's what I enjoyed out of it the most, was that psychological side of it. So like, yeah, from when it's like, what the fuck's everyone's weird and everyone's saying really weird shit and things are happening that are just out of the ordinary.
You know, our shirts are from the same place, so it's the same material, which you can get on our website.
There's a sale this weekend, actually, 30% off.
Hey.
Up to 30% off, I should say.
Oh, there you go.
No, because I've worn this all day. It's all gross and sweaty. Yeah, so like the first, like all that suspense stuff was really cool, and then when they get the reveal at the end, it's not the reveal itself that's kind of anticlimactic. It's sort of the next step afterwards, as you mentioned, as he begins to escape. That's where I feel the movie goes from like a good steady, like in terms of pacing, it's like this nice slow burn that's really kind of meticulous, and as you mentioned, like very particular, and then it goes from like, if you're in a rating of like speed, goes from like 2 to like a 9. I'm like, what the fuck? But not in like a good way, because the guy sort of goes a little Rambo in the end. And I'm like, oh, okay,
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially,
spoilers, of course.
Yeah, we're in spoilers. So Chris, to talk about all the things that make it awesome, you need to set the scene. So Chris is going with his white girlfriend, Allison, I think. Rose. Allison's the name of the actress. Rose. And they go to meet the family, and and the dad, Bradley Whitford, is going on about how I would have voted for Obama twice, you know, and like, so we like black people. Like
all the really sort of generic conversations that you would assume a lot of African Americans have to deal with.
Yeah, and he talks about they've got he's like, I know what it looks like, because they've got two black people working for them. So one's like the groundskeeper and one's like the maid, maid, I guess it would be what it is.
The housekeeper, sort of.
Housekeeper, yeah. And so, you know, he's like, I know what it looks like, but, you know, they were in the family and we wanted to keep them in the family. Again, a lot of subtle hints leading up to things.
God, they were in the...
Yeah. I've got plenty of those.
Damn.
But, so essentially, Chris starts hanging out with this family, and Catherine Keener, the mother, is a psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist,
hypnotherapist, and Chris is a smoker. So they're like, you know, I could break that habit for you, Chris, and he's like, nah, I'm good. And they hit a deer along the way, and which kind of startls them. Which,
same note as well, in terms of like, we'll get into the symbology of the show. We'll get into
the metaphors and foreshadowing. But so that happens, and then the brother comes into it, and he's a bit weird and kitschy, and then she hypnotizes Chris to stop his smoking, per se. And Chris is also dealing with the inner demons of him and his mother passing away. So his dad died at a young age, and he was a kid watching TV, and his mother worked nights, and so she was hit by a car and never came home from work, and he just sat and watched TV until he didn't go looking for her. And then the irony was that if he had gone looking for her, she was only just around the corner of the block, and she was alive for a long time, suffering in pain. And if he had gone out, maybe she would have lived. So that's, you know, something that he lives with. And so she picks up on that, puts him into hypnosis, which takes them into the sunken place, which has become a big thing in the lexicon of pop culture now, where I think it's in the dictionary. They're going to put it in the dictionary. But the sunken place, where it shows it as a metaphor, as like you're out of your own body experience. So she
like you're deep within yourself, but you can't control yourself.
Exactly. The way they represent it is that it's like almost like a television set of your eyes, and then you fall back into like a void, a space, and you're floating in the distance, and you can see what's going on out in the world, but you're stuck in this place that you can't get out of. And then later in the movie, these people come to the house, the family friends, and the girl, Rose, is like, oh, I didn't realize it was this weekend. And they're all talking to Chris and saying semi-racist things that aren't really racist. It's like, you know, good old Australian racism where, you know, I'm not being racist, but or I'm trying to
appeal to your culture that I don't understand.
Exactly. He's calling him my man sometimes. And he says, like, oh, what's your golf form like? I'm a big fan of Tiger Woods, one of the guys is like. And he's like, this is awkward. And the other guy's like, is it true, like, black men are better in bed or bigger endowed? All the stereotypes. And he's just like, I don't like this, is weird. And then he finds another African-American guy there. And I think, as much as they play up the whiteness of it, they play up the blackness where he goes up to the guy, he's like, hey, my man, like, and tries to fist pump him. And I'm like, well, who's to say that this guy, is on that level of,
But maybe that, you said, once again, that could be a thing to sort of differentiate themselves. It's like, hey, like, you're a brother, right? As in, like,
I think he even doesn't literally say that, but you know what I mean? That's what he's going for.
Yeah, and I think that's in order to be, like, separate from everybody else.
Well, that he kind of feels comfortable being around, because even the guy says, I think Chris here is feels more comfortable that has a fellow African American person around. But that guy is acting strange. He's dressed like them, like this old kind of like old-timey hat, like dressed like a white dude, has an old like 60-year-old wife, white wife. And anyway, so Chris is like, this guy's weird, I'm gonna take a picture. He takes a photograph and the flash causes him to like flip out, and he's like, get out, and freaks out. Anyway, movie progresses, and you find out that they've captured Chris. They're doing these bingo, you think at first, and then it's a bidding for a photograph
bidding
of him.
For him,
And so there's a photographer. Chris is a photographer by profession, and he meets Stephen Root, who's like this blind art dealer.
Cameo. I love that dude.
Yeah, he's good. Office Space. And he seems to be the only genuine nice person there, or person he relates to, because he says, I used to be an art dealer. I get the irony of being blind. Yeah, he's like, people describe art to me or photographs to me, and I, make my judgments off of that, but I wish I could get that eye back. You have such a great eye. I want your eye. Anyway, it reveals that they capture Chris, everybody's in on it, and that they're swapping.
But it's essentially body swapping.
Body swap. So they take the brain out of the white person. Whoever bids for it wins that person's body, and they swap.
Actually, I think it's more of the whole idea of you're bidding for the person, and you can do whatever you want with it. Whether that be whether you hypnotize them to become, as you said, like your partner, your sex slave, or you swap bodies. There's the whole idea
it's always swapping bodies.
No, your idea is you're bidding for that person.
No, it's always swapping bodies.
I disagree, but yeah,
we'll come back to that.
It happens a lot though.
In real life? No, but they take the brain out of the white guy and put it into the black person's body, but the hypnosis suppresses the person inside, so you're still there, but you're in the sunken place. Which makes no sense if you're swapping brains, by the way. Yeah, because your brain's missing. But it's a metaphor. Maybe it's part of the brain. I don't know. Frontal lobe. Does that work? Yeah. But it's a metaphor for the way that it's a metaphor for the way black people are represented in the world at the moment, and racial overtones, and the way that the white people oppress the black person and keep them suppressed in a place where they can't get out of. The government, the people kind of keep them down and in their place. And then Chris escapes, and as unlike a normal movie, he actually gets away, which is awesome. So that's essentially the plot of the movie. But you don't like that?
No. So it's all up until the escape part.
Okay.
So that's the escape part. Because essentially what happens is they have him in a room where this is the prep room for what's going to happen.
Yes.
So they're like, this is where you get a lot of exposition out, which is kind of handy. And you get, it's handy in the way you get like, okay, things you already didn't know. It kind of fills in the blanks.
Yeah. It played on like a Dharma Initiative style.
Yeah. Here's an informative video of this is what
informative
this is
video,
happening.
like a sales pitch for it.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, so then once he escapes the clutches and gets out, that's where I went, okay. So some guy gets a deer through the face. There's like a big scuffle, which is foreshadowed. That's a foreshadowed scuffle. It's just, and then he gets like a screwdriver through the hand, and he's like totally okay with it. Like he does go like a little Rambo, and not in like a this is a flight or flight Rambo, as in like I'm just unstoppable.
Well, he hit the guy. The guy didn't expect a deer antlers to be shoved through his chest.
No. I mean, like from then on, it's like yeah.
No,
that's my like. There's like there are three big things that I have an issue with in this movie. That is sort of the escape at the end.
Yes.
I enjoyed it. However, I was like, oh, this is kind of just amped. Like, it went from the jump is too drastic. The second is the brother. Like, why did he have to like a hillbilly rapist?
Yeah.
Like, no, granted, because everybody else in this movie is of they appear to be of an upper class. You know, they're very well spoken, they're very well dressed. They're all kind of very centered, very calm, very chilled. And this guy is like, and like with fucking crazy hair and like fucking missing teeth, and he's just he's not, I'm exaggerating,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. Like
he's like greasy.
He's greasy, he's unclean, and he's like chaotic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is like, I understand why you're there, because you're there to create that suspicion. But I think you could have had that exact suspicion and I think it would have been more scary if he was clean cut. If he was the same sort of same as everybody else, but a little bit like, but he has that, like, he pushes that conversation the others wouldn't. And I think that'd be more unsettling, because you're like, hang on, if he's broken, what's that say for everybody else? No worries, Jess. Still happy that you're here. You can be all good. That and the third thing that kind of I didn't like was the girlfriend.
Okay.
The sort of twist at the end that she's playing along the whole time, and I can't find the keys, and like, my issue with that is because they've been dating for 4 months. 4 months is a long ruse. You know what I mean? Like,
the long con.
That's an unbelievable con for me. However, I could be really wrong. What I thought would be better, rather than her being in on it the whole time, is that using the hypnosis, she had no idea. So come to the moment when she discovers this is what they're doing in this house, she's like, oh my god, what the fuck? Like, granted, he finds a shoebox with all these pictures and stuff of, yes, we're still talking about Get Out, Jess. So he's looking through all these photos of this, like, oh my god, there's all this history of her dating black people, whatever. And she just makes a comment. She's like, you're the first dark skinned person I've dated. And I think if she, as a character, if she was hypnotized to genuinely believe that when they find out what's going on, they see the scuffle and see where everything's going, and then you have to watch this fucking haunting scene of the parents re-brainwashing the daughter back to normal. So she's like, what the fuck you doing? And then it's all about the mum, manipulating her to get more people into the town. I think that would be a much more horrifying thing. Granted, it probably takes away from the subtext of what they're trying to say, but as a horror movie, I think that would have been a better way to go about it. It would have added some legitimacy to their relationship, I guess, even though she may have been, subconsciously programmed, quote unquote, to do that.
I think it's your white overtones and your sense of not believing in the plight of the black man, that you want the white people to be good guys.
No, just the one. I want the one person to be like, I didn't realize I was a horrible person. I'm so sorry.
Well, a lot of people have come up to that actress after the movie and been like, they'd say, she's hypnotized, right?
Dude, that's what I said.
And she
that's awesome.
And she says like, no, she's just evil. How hard is that to accept? She's bad. We gave you so many ways to know that she's bad. She has photos of other people whose lives she ended behind her. The minute she can, she hangs them back up on her wall behind her. That's so crazy. And they're still like, but maybe she's also a victim.
No. Yeah.
And she's like, no. And I will say that there's 100% white people that say that to me.
Oh, without a doubt. Like, I know that she is evil.
Yes.
Because once they do the reveal, I'm like, yeah, you're fucked up. I just think personally, as from a storytelling perspective, I would have liked that better.
Yeah.
However, with the character, like, once that switch happens, yeah, you're fucking evil. You eat cereal like a weirdo.
She keeps the coloured cereal away from the white milk.
Oh, shit. Really? That's a good idea.
That's true.
Holy crap, that's a really good pick. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm not saying that, like, oh, she was hypnotized the whole time. I'm saying I just think I would have liked that.
Yeah.
Because, like, in real life, I'm like, oh my god, I did not realize I was a horrible person. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And it probably would have worked if he didn't go apeshit and kill absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
Like, they could have reprogrammed her after. Or something, to say that. Or go on a flashback and see her getting hypnotized like previous times. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of the foreshadowing that was in the movie.
Well, the first one that stands out to me is one scene when they're driving to the town. They hit a deer, and the deer only conveniently destroys his side of the car. Like, perfect, almost down the line.
Okay.
Just destroys the front of his car.
Okay.
That's the foreshadowing right there. It's like, you're fucked.
Yeah, it could be. Well, I didn't quite get that. Like, there's a long time where he's watching the deer die.
Yeah.
And
I think it's showing his heart as a person.
Kinda. It's more like it's kind of representing, when his mother got hit by a car and died.
Oh shit! Yeah, of course.
And him avoiding it, and also that he's literally like the deer in the headlights later in the movie, where he's in the sunken place, and that he also uses the deer to kill the guy at the end. So it's
pretty cool.
Circle of Life. Okay. So yeah, like originally, at the start of the movie when they're on the way to the house, they get pulled over because they've hit a deer. I don't even know if they did that yet.
They hit the deer, and she didn't know who to. The girlfriend had no idea who to call.
Yep. So she calls the police.
The police like, can just fucking call animal control next time.
Animal control, yeah. And then he's like, "Can I see your license?" And she's like, "Sure. This is this." And then he's like, "What about yours?" And she's like, "He wasn't driving. He doesn't need to show you his license."
He's like, "Yeah, but I want to check it."
Yeah, and she's like, "No,
it's setting up that the cop's doing it to be racist.
Yeah, in a sense, and she's very much like, "No, like that's racist. You don't have to see his details. Don't give him the details." So she's like defending him, and then when they're in the car driving away later, he's like, "That's really hot," but she's actually avoiding a paper trail because if they record that she is with him and then he turns up missing,
we have record that he was last seen with.
Exactly.
Very clever.
So there you go. Missy, Rose's mum, isn't actually upset about Chris smoking because he's doing it near her daughter. It's because they want to make the body as best they possibly can, and it's less sellable if it has lung cancer.
Good point.
So that's what that was. On the tour of the house, Dean, Bradley Whitford's character, the father, says, "We hired Georgina and Walter to help care for my parents. When they died, I couldn't bear to let them go."
As in the grandparents.
Yeah, so he means
Spoilers,
them as
the
in
grandparents
the
are inside the housekeeper and the groundskeeper's bodies.
Yeah, because she wears a wig and she's adjusting her wig in the mirror. But
see, this is where my talking about how they all swap bodies. I disagree.
Why?
Because with the sex slave one, the Flash, and he's like, what this is going against with the brain thing, right?
Yeah.
But the whole idea is the brains are in there. Like you take out my brain, it's not me anymore. It's someone else.
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
Jess says how though. In regards to what, Jess? So that's the whole idea. Is that's why they're so uncomfortable because they're like, hi, I don't know how to talk to you because I'm a white person in a black person's body. This is weird. That's how I see it. And then because he's the one that's been converted, he hasn't been his body. He hasn't been replaced by anyone. He's just been changed to meet what this woman wanted.
But he's also got the hat on, so it's hiding the
Yes,
scar.
but once again, that's the continuity thread of that setting of that setup. I disagree that he's a person in there because because I think the woman is sort of likes the idea that he's a black person.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's her partner in a black person's body as what you're led to believe one of the other. The grandma being in the maid or whatever you said. Okay, Jess, you did miss this part. We'll just quickly run through it. So the big plot point of the movie is in this small town, there are a series of people that essentially kidnap black people and use them as their means for whatever they want.
They swap brains. Anything you're saying is wrong. But it's his opinion. So
the whole idea is they either hypnotize them or they body swap them. They take out the brain of one person, put it in another, and that's what we mean by the grandma being in the maid. As in the white grandmother, when she passed away, her brain was put into the black woman, and that's the big twist.
And it's not even like a metaphor, because right at the end she's like, "Grandma!"
She's literally like, "Grandma," and then she's like, "You ruined my house." It's crazy. It's good.
Awesome. Okay. So, Rose's parents. So the mother's name is Missy, which is an abbreviation of the term mistress, as in a white slave-owning woman married to a man who owned a plantation.
Oh, fuck. Clever. Okay. Very good.
Boom. And also the name Dean, which is the father's name, is obviously like the head of a division or grouping of departments in a university. That one not so much. That's really match. Chris apologizes to Georgina after she explains why she unplugged his cell phone. And he tells her, "Nah, man, I didn't mean to snitch on you." And she's like, "Snitch?" And then he's like, rat out, and she's like, "Oh, you mean tattletale?" Because she's old and she doesn't understand hip slang. Clever. The part which is dumb in the movie, and then you rewatch it to make sense, where Chris goes outside to have a smoke, and the guy's just running full pelt at them.
Yeah, and then scoots off.
Yeah, and doesn't say anything.
It's an uncomfortable, and it is a little scary because you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like it's coming right at you. I
love the credit to the shot though. Like I love the shot. It's
hey, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
Yep.
Has your shirt arrived yet? These ones.
Yeah.
Because like it's a cool shot because it is like it's front and it's like literally face height.
And at first you don't know because you can see him in the distance, and the Chris is just like, huh? And then you see it running, and then he's
the way it cuts between the two, you're like, oh fuck, he's got some speed on him. But then again, did you ever see the movie Kung Pao Enter the Fist?
No,
not really. The movie's
not
dumb
in
as
its
shit.
entirety.
Okay, so the movie that movie is essentially a bunch of Asian. It's like one Asian movie recut and repurposed.
Yeah. And they put him into the movie.
Yeah, there is a scene where the woman is yelling at him. It's like, the chosen one. He's like, I'm coming. In the distance, and like you see him running, but like the way it goes on for like 3 minutes, it's painful, and it keeps cutting back, but he keeps getting further than forward than back, and he's changed his distance, and it's visually hysterical. He's like, I'm coming, and then he's back over there, and then he's a bit forward again, and then he's back, and then out of nowhere he just comes in and like kind of. It's very similar to Monty Python and
the Holy Grail, where he's running in the distance, and then
he seems really far away, and then bam, he's there.
Yeah, and he like kills him. Yeah,
yeah. So I couldn't help but giggle because like that's what the shot reminded me of. No, it hasn't. Shouldn't be too far away, Sarah. Shouldn't be too far away.
Okay. Yeah. So he's going through the house and he's showing him the pictures, and he says that he lost to Jesse Owens in the 1936 Olympics, and he never got over it. So the grandpa put himself in a black body, and he's always training because he wants to beat Jesse Owens' time.
Oh shit!
And then at the end, where she's like, "Get him, grandpa," and he like runs him down.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Clever. Yeah, before the auction, the man who was a professional golfer asked to see Chris's form, not because he's being racist in a Tiger Woods way. He just wants to see what his body can do because he's going to bid on this body to see if he can golf in it.
That whole silent auction was really unnerving. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was good, and the music was great. Yeah, we had that one there.
Because, hang on, isn't the father the Weasley guy in Happy Gilmore? No, Billy Madison.
Yeah,
yeah, I thought it was. Yeah, it's good. What's the mother been in? What else has she been
in? She was in which one was it? 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Ah, there it is. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, slavery references. The bingo game has some pretty overt shared imagery with slave auctions, as do the leather bonds in the chair. So when Chris rips the stuffing out of the leather chair, he's literally saved by picking cotton.
Oh, fuck.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
that's dark.
They specifically pulled part of the chair apart and put cotton in it, which it didn't have originally, to make the metaphor picking cotton, because he uses it to stop the hypnosis.
Oh yeah, so that with the hypnotizing, they're using sound cues.
Well, it's a spoon. So
it's the sound.
She does
it's the sound cue of the scraping against the thing.
And of course, a silver spoon is a sign of upper class.
Oh.
So she uses a silver spoon over him.
Very cool.
Like that one.
That's even better. Because in terms of the hypnotism, it's just the repeating sound.
Yeah. All the guests that arrive, all the white guests, come in black cars. Oh. So they're in a black vessel, and they get out, and they're all wearing black clothes.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Justin says the ending is interesting because the video he is playing to the guy looks like a secret government plot because of the logo on the bottom left, going with your sort of like the
Dharma
Initiative like style.
Yeah.
Very cool.
At the start, the white car is stalking the black guy.
Yeah.
White car, black guy. The main theme, which is that weird Swahili song that plays at the start, is in Swahili, except the exception of the English word brother, which has, of course, a universal meaning among black people. But the voices in the song represent the souls of black slaves and lynching victims trying to warn Chris to get away.
That's why it sounds so haunting, yeah.
Yeah, and the literal translation of the lyrics is, "Brother, run, listen to the elders, listen to the truth, run away, save yourself."
Wow, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sunken place, as Jordan Peele said himself, means we're marginalized. No matter how hard we scream, the system still silences us.
It's a very, very good movie. Don't get me wrong. Like, my couple of little gripes aside, I still think the movie is incredibly fantastic. I am so happy to see it be nominated. Like, the cynical part of me is it's nominated because of its black messaging in that situation. However, it is also an incredibly good movie. Like, in terms of my ranking, it's second behind The Post.
Ooh, Behind the Post.
Yeah, I still love The Post. Because as I said, I romanticize journalism. I can't help it.
Hello, Alex.
Alex, how are you?
I think as a movie, I'll ask a question. Do you think if it didn't have the black overtones and the racism in it, or the racial overtones, would it still be a interesting thriller? If it was just like an athletic dude, white dude.
No, I think the way the movie is structured and the way...
if you take all that out and it's just the horror...
I think the movie falls apart if you take all that out. Because I said, if you pull all those things out...
they can still do the same
There are so many things woven in that story, that stem from those...
What?
It's a meme. I don't quite get it. It's this Ugandan Knuckles. It's this weird VR chat meme thing. I'm not quite sure. I had Alex explain it to me last time he was here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the movie itself would fall down. I think it would be a pretty horrible movie without all that information.
Ooh. Well, it is very much like a B movie, and it is very much in the vein of like the Stepford Wives, where they replace their wives with robots because they want them to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Sonic. So, yeah, I think it could work otherwise, but I think what elevates it to the Academy Award level is that metaphor. And he said that he wrote it...
And the way that it's told, and like the as you mentioned, the nuance and the...
Well, it's very, like, well shot, well made, well structured. Like, for a debut, it's really, really good.
So it is an incredibly well-written movie. And as you said, in the same way that... Sorry,
I was just going to say, like, movie debut, because they obviously, I don't know if they direct their own episodes, but write their own sketch comedy.
Yeah, this is coming, knowing that it comes from
things like that.
A comedic actor and a comedic writer. Like, Key and Peele are fucking fantastic. They are like this generation's, like, Chappelle, in terms of, like, like, how smartly they write, and for, not for that audience, I guess, horrible way to put it, but... Chappelle had a very distinct comedic style that no one else has been able to resonate.
They got a unique point of view and unique voice. Which shows here as well.
And then Key and Peele are the exact same. And like, it's such a simple fucking skit. Like, there's one skit that I love so much, and his whole idea is one of them is a substitute teacher, and he's reading all these names, but he's reading them like...
Oh, yeah,
like they're super white names, but he's reading them like as if they were like weird black names.
Yeah.
Black stereotype names.
Yeah.
Like Aaron instead of Aaron. He's like, it's Aaron. He's like, you're talking back to me. It's a really well written sketch. And I think you can tell, knowing their roots and sort of how they can write, and they can sort of bring in weird political shit and weird, not like social commentary is probably the better way to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then bringing that into this movie, I think was really good.
It's like the Matt Damon Ben Affleck, where Matt Damon made all these like art house movies, or did an art house movie, did a Bourne movie, and kind of got a respectability. And Ben Affleck was kind of like Armageddon and Reindeer Games and Phantoms and all these shit movies, and then came back and directed Gone Baby Gone first.
Yeah, then Argo, and then In the Town, then Argo.
Yeah, and then but whereas, let me get the names right, Jordan Peele, Key. So Key. Peele. Yeah. Key is like in every second movie. Like, he was in Tomorrowland, he's in Pitch Perfect 2. Like, literally, if you go to his Internet Movie Database,
bit actor.
he's
just
done like more movies than Christopher Lee or Samuel L. Jackson, like every single movie.
And they're all like bit parts. It's like he's like, hey, can I rock a... It's like...
Yeah, he's on set.
It's almost like he's got a bunch of buddies, and they're like, hey, you want to come be in my movie? He's like, yeah, fuck yeah. What
and he's literally in everything. Whereas as Jordan Peele isn't as prominent, And then he comes out and does this. This is what he's been working on, is gestating. But yeah, he said that he wrote it in the Obama administration, where like racism wasn't a thing anymore in America because we've got a black president now. But then that's still that underlying kind of, you know,
it's a hidden racism.
Exactly.
Which is now which is now moved to the forefront again.
And it's taken a subverted way or a different way, and they're still oppressed in different ways, even though it's the modern age. So that's all awesome. But just as like a visceral movie itself, like, and the ending where it does go to 11, I can see that, but the idea that, you know, he's escaping and he kills the dude, and then again he's talking about how jiu-jitsu is like, you know, better than judo because you think 3 steps ahead, and then he kicks the door once, kicks the door twice, kicks the door 3 times, he stabs him in the leg, those kind of things. And even like him getting in the car and driving away, and then he hits the grandma, and then he's like, fuck, and he's having that flashback of when he was with his mum, and he's like, does the right thing and gets grandma in the car, and then grandma goes crazy and tries to kill him. And his TSA buddy, which we didn't even mention,
fantastic comic relief.
He's like, but super comic relief, like maybe too much, but it works well, where he works for the airport, and he's like airport security, which people look down upon. And they're driving on the way there, and Rose and Chris are driving in the car, and he talks on the phone, and she's like, I remember the way you were looking at me, you know, like I should have ended up with you perhaps. And then later in the movie, where he's investigating what's going on and Chris isn't answering his phone, he goes to the police, and because all through the movie he's like, man, they're doing, like, Chris is like, this
sex slave shit.
And again, again, like real movie, real life, he's like, you know, there's weird shit going on. Like, this happened, and it's weird. Like, in horror movies, you don't mention anything to each other. Whereas he talks to his friend, he's like, man, people are acting really weird here. I can't put my finger on it, but it's weird. He's like, they're probably like weird sex slaves and shit. Yeah. And then he figures out that the guy, Andre, was the guy that he met there. It's like, that's Andre, because he shared it with him. So it's cool where it's just like, yeah, you really would talk to your friend like that. Yeah. And then he goes to the police. He's like, all right, this is going to sound crazy, but there's this. I pieced this together. You know, I did like the same kind of thing you guys do, same kind of course, detectives.
The first when he walks in and they're like, you know, I think he explains he's a TSA agent. You're like, oh, you understand if you're a TSA agent, you talk to a different channel, you know. So it's like they're kind of very like, oh, okay, he's a TSA.
So we get the same training as you.
He's like security, and he's like, okay, cool. This guy thinks he's a legit detective. All right, let's see how this goes. And then boom, he starts rattling off his crazy theory, which is correct, but it's like, it seems really crazy. And they're like, oh yeah, cool. Let me just get some other detectives, and they're like, well, detective and all that. Yeah. And then they just fucking piss themselves and like, nah, fuck you, get out.
Yeah, and he's like trying to be legit. And then he calls her and he's like, oh, hey, where's Chris? You know, he's got his like persona as a person with his friends, but then he's like really serious, like, hey, where's Chris, man? And then she, not only that, Rose, once she reveals her evil side, which I hate in movies or TV where, you know, someone's like a double agent, and then as soon as they reveal their true self, they're always like, I'm really cold and robotic now. Yeah. You know, whereas they're like, hey, what's going on, man? We're best friends. And then the end of the scene realizes, like, I've tricked him. We're ready now. You know?
See, that's why I think the
But she's on the phone, like, she's on the bed, like, in a zone, or in the kitchen, I think.
Yeah.
But she's talking like her normal self, bubbly, and she's like, I see the way you're looking at me. This is about us, isn't it? And he's like, fuck, man. She's fucking with me.
She's good. Yeah.
And he like gets the phone and he puts it on record. He's like, fucking put it on record. Gonna record this shit. Gets his computer ready. He's like, hey, I'm back again. And then she starts pulling that shit. And he's like, fuck. Like, she's outsmarted him. But she's a criminal genius.
Yeah, he's a genius. He's so good. And like, to his credit, like, that's kind of what, like, if you know, and then you get that, like, fuck, no, she's good.
Yeah, and then at the end, so Chris gets away, and he gets in the street, and he's in a situation where I'm pretty
everyone's
sure
been shot.
He shot Grandpa. Grandpa's dead. And Rose is shot as well, and he's like choking her to death because she's just evil, and he's like, I'm gonna kill her. And then the sirens go off and a car pulls up, and it's a police car, and it's literally like, man, how is he going to explain this in America with a black man strangling a white girl with a dead guy over there? Like, they're right in the situation. Yeah, like, how is he going to justify this? And then it's actually his friend who's come all this way.
I thought it was going to be the cop from the start and then just blow him away and then credits, you know what I mean? But that's much better outcome.
Motherfucking TSA. And then they leave. And it's like, that's the coolest ending.
I thought that was going to be the end, and I was going to reverse that, and he's like, I fucking told you, man.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't want to say anything. But I fucking told you, don't go there.
Like, I told you so many times you shouldn't have gone there. But anyway, we've done this for like 45 minutes. We've got another movie to talk about. So,
all right, so let's Get Out.
Give me your final thoughts and Get Out. Even though you talked about it in the other movie.
Awesome. So clever, so well done. I don't know if it's going to win. It'd be awesome if it did. It's really hard this year to pick a best winner. I hope it does. Last year, though, there was Moonlight, which, I mean, they don't really have anything related to each other. And the Call Me Your Name was a homosexual movie, whereas Moonlight was a homosexual movie, but it was also African-American movie. So this is an African-American movie. Whether that's going to play into it, like they don't want to do it 2 years in a row because they're sending a message. I think Academy Awards is a lot about the message that they're giving. So it's hard to tell. I don't know. What about you?
I thought it was fantastic. I was like a couple of small nitpicks with it. But they're like grains of salt in a massive
thing full of salt.
Thing full of not salt. You know what I mean? They're like, when something is so good, you pick the.
Can you say pepper? Why'd it have to be salt? Why'd it have to be white salt? Come on.
Oh, sorry.
Just do black pepper.
Yeah, so it's like the smallest issues with something that is fantastic. Like when you normally have issues with something, like when we talked about Justice League, right? Like I'm like, this is wrong, this is wrong. And they're all like big, substantial things that break the movie, right?
Yeah.
Where here I'm like, there are 3 little things that I kind of wish were a little bit different. That's because it's so good that there's this little thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's it. And where it sits, it's like the second best movie for me out of them so far.
Very cool. All right. So
I'm looking forward to see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll find out. So moving on to our second movie, The Shape of Water. So I'll give you the plot synopsis of The Shape of Water. Here we go. This is a long one. I'll give you a short one.
Justin asked before we get started, have you guys seen The Babadook? I have seen the first half hour, and then I wanted to strangle that fucking child, so I turned it off.
I had heard about The Babadook. It was only playing at the Astor Theatre in St Kilda. So I went to like this 11 o'clock screening, got tickets, went there, sat down, and the projector wasn't working and they couldn't play The Babadook. So they were like, hey, well, you can watch Halloween for like free. Well, I already paid for Babadook, so you can watch Halloween instead and then still get a ticket for The Babadook later. So I'm like, okay, I'll watch Halloween. And then that broke as well. So I was like, well, now I'm here in St Kilda at 11 o'clock. No, they gave me a ticket and I went and saw The Babadook like a month later. And it's pretty good. Australian movie. Creepy. Slow burn. Babadook. That happens.
Yes, it is on Netflix.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll give you the short version first. The film is the story of a mute woman working in a high-security government laboratory who falls in love with a captured amphibian feature. I'll stuff that up. Amphibian creature. I'll give you the longer one. A lonely mute cleaner named Eliza has few friends other than her co-worker Zelda. They both work in a hidden high-security government laboratory. Eliza likes to wander around the laboratory and discover what the scientists are working on. She comes across an amphibious creature kept in a small tank of water and realizes that the creature can not only communicate, but is intelligent and has emotions. She develops a relationship with the creature, who was captured in the Amazon before being brought to the laboratory for experimentation. When she discovers that the scientists plan to kill him in order to study him, she decides it's time to help her new friend escape. And she fucks a fish. Spoilers. It was directed by Guillermo del Toro. We'll talk about him in a moment. And stars Sally Hawkins, Octavia Spencer, Richard Jenkins, Michael Shannon, and Michael Stuhlbarg in his third appearance in an Academy Award Best Picture movie this year, behind Call Me By Your Name and The Post that he cameoed in. He's got a bigger role in this one, I'd say. Probably the biggest role of them all. What's your experience with Guillermo del Toro movies?
Not much. Not much that I'm aware of. Like, I know of the name. I know of his legacy. As far as I'm aware, I don't. Like, I know Hellboy as an example.
Yeah.
Like for me, I know him more of his connection with Hideo Kojima and what they're looking to do what they were looking to do with Silent Hills.
Ooh.
Do you know that?
Well, the game.
Yeah. So some game context for you. So a couple of years ago, they released this thing called PT. Yes. It's called the playable teaser, and it was a teaser for what was going to be Silent Hills. It was going to star Norman
with an S on the end.
Yep, Silent Hills.
Cool.
And this is the game I want you and Josh to play on a stream one day.
Yes, I've heard of it.
We might play it on when we do like a 12-hour stream or something.
Cool.
Yeah, so it stars Norman Reedus
from Walking Dead.
Yep.
And
with director and story being
Saints.
being Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro. And then now in Kojima's latest game, or what's coming in the next couple of years, Death Stranding, Guillermo del Toro is in it as well. I like saying his name funny.
Well, he's starring in it or he's working on it?
He's in it.
Really?
He's fucking in it. Yeah, I'll show you when we're done.
Awesome. So I love Guillermo del Toro. My introduction to him was Blade 2. So he directed Blade 2.
Oh, of course.
Which is...
See, this is the thing. I know him, but like I don't know.
He gets around. So you probably recognize a lot of his stuff. But Blade 2 was the movie where introduced me to him. Then he was doing Hellboy. And Blade 2 is like awesome comic book movie. Has a great style to it. And it got this gothic horror to it with the Reavers. Reapers. And just the design. He's a big monster movie guy. He's this Mexican director, and he grew up in like a war-torn part of Mexico where it's very, people get kidnapped constantly. It's just like a normal everyday way of life. He'd see like a dead body on the road, and there was this beauty in death. And he loves a lot of these old monster movies as well. Has this really unique style. When it comes up in movie trailers where it's like from visionary director Guillermo del Toro, or gets the tingles.
Like, it's gonna be fucking weird.
Yeah,
so that's when I explained to Millie. She's like, "What's this movie?" I'm like, "It's Shape of the Water. It's called The Shape of Water. By Guillermo del Toro. It's gonna be weird as fuck."
Exactly.
And Millie's like, "Okay," and then within like half an hour, she's like, "Yeah, no, I get it.
See,
it's weird."
And he based like these. He sets these real world settings, usually set through like period pieces, where it sets it against a real event or real time with these fairy tale, fantastical kind of elements, and merges it together in these bittersweet stories. So Hellboy was the other big one that got me into him. Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. First movie he did was Kronos with Ron Perlman, so he's got a working relationship with Ron Perlman and Hellboy 2. He's also in Blade 2. He did The Devil's Backbone, which was a movie about a ghost child in Spanish. And he also did Pan's Labyrinth, which was his big personal movie, which was in Spanish as well, about this little girl during World War II, I think it was, maybe World War I, where she goes away to live with her family. She's got a sick mother, and they kind of marry into this jerky Nazi kind of guy, and she goes off into this fantasy world where there's this faun, and then he also did Pacific Rim.
Yes, true.
Crimson Peak, which recently came out, I think it was 2016, but I wasn't a massive fan of that. Tom Hiddleston was in it. So he does these personal movies and kind of gambles his own money in it because he wants to make it his vision, and then does these big blockbusters like Hellboy or Pacific Rim and things like that to keep the Guillermo brand going. So this one is definitely one of those ones. Uniquely his vision. He invested his own money in building the sets and the character design. And it also stars Doug Jones as the creature. So Doug Jones played Abe Sapien in Hellboy. He's this very slender actor. Does a lot of mime and stuff like that. He also played the Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth with the eyes on it, and he also played the Faun as well in Pan's Labyrinth. So they've worked together for a long time. But essentially, what did you think of this movie overall?
It was batshit. I loved it. Like I said, it did have some. It has. It's the most unique out of all of the movies we've watched so far, in terms of like it's just so bizarre. Like it baffles me that it was nominated, but I can understand why, because there's nothing else like it. Like, how many movies can you say when you talk about a mute woman who falls in love with the creature from Black Lagoon?
This one.
I loved it. That was really good and really weird.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, we.
If Hellboy didn't exist, then I would adore this movie. Because the character of the creature looks exactly like Abe Sapien. Played by the same actor. I mean, yes, he's got a different color, but it is very much the slim, webbed hands, big eyes, long face. It looks exactly like Abe Sapien, but that's like the reboot version. So that really took it away, because I love Abe Sapien. I love the weird way that Doug Jones moves, and they created him in the water, and he's got this very distinct kind of movement to him.
Like Andy Serkis when he does like gold.
Exactly, he's like the practical Andy Serkis. So that like hurt me every time, where I'm like, oh, if only they just changed the design. And he said they worked so hard on the design, but I'm like, I love Guillermo del Toro. He's got these amazing drawings that he does in his books. He has like his house, and then he has his house, and his second house is just full of his collectible shit. And he's got like wax models of like H.P. Lovecraft and Boris Karloff, who played Frankenstein. Like in one of his offices, he's got Boris Karloff sitting down, getting his makeup done in a chair, and the guy who did the makeup for Frankenstein in 1931, him doing the makeup on him, and it's just these wax humans standing there. Like he just loves movies. He loves weird shit. Aesthetically, it looks incredible. Like the greens in the movie, the 1960s style futurism, where it's like all metallic and rounded, and the room that the creature lives in, or they keep him captive in, the set design, the 1960s cars, how the color blue is in the soaps and the tiles and her wallpaper and the water, and it all kind of blends together. It looks like a beautiful fairy tale book. And I love the idea. I remember not knowing anything about it, but I knew it was Guillermo del Toro, and I knew it was called The Shape of Water.
Here is some confusion. So Jess goes, I thought the creature in Shape of Water was a precursor to Abe Sapien.
Yeah, they imply in like fan theories that they're the parents of Abe Sapien. But Guillermo del Toro's like, no, copyright, no.
We can't touch that, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. No. And the practical effects are incredible, that they made everything practical. But... And I hadn't known anything about it, and then I saw the trailer when I went to see The Disaster Artist, and I didn't want to see the trailer because I just wanted to go in blind. And the trailer is very much like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, you know what's going to happen, you know? So I knew everything that happened.
See, I hadn't seen the trailer. What I find very interesting, though, is the poster is the final shot of the film.
Yeah.
Very
Spoilers.
Cool. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, but I love the idea that they're in this time where... what's her name? Eliza? Eliza is this mute girl, and so she's trapped in her own world. People don't respect her or give her any time of day because she's just like this mute person who, you know, is retarded or whatever they would call them at that time. So she just gets shunned and ignored. That her best friend, played by Richard Jenkins, who's always incredible, is
Side note,
this.
she was also fantastic in Hidden Numbers as well.
Well, that's Octavia something or other.
Is it the same chick? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, so you're talking about the male friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Octavia
my brain was going towards the woman because I thought going down the line of, you know...
Well, we can start with her. So, yeah, she's a black woman in the 1960s. So, again, she would be someone who'd be shunned and ignored and
she's friends
not
with
respected.
That'd be shunned and,
Exactly. And Richard Jenkins plays like a closeted homosexual again. So, he has to keep himself hidden and can't be his true self the same way that she can't express herself as what she really is. So all of those main characters kind of have that bond, and the same with the creature as well. It's misunderstood, you know, you don't understand what it's really about. So that again has that metaphor to it and that overarching layer. Michael Shannon, who plays the villain, is
Zod's back.
Incredible. Like
what a cock.
I know.
Like I actually use this. Like I very rarely use the C word. I'm like this guy is just you know. I'm like this guy is just a shit person.
Usually he plays like in Boardwalk Empire, it's a similar kind of character, and Michael Stuhlbarg's in Boardwalk Empire as well. But he's just the perfect amount of like weird.
Yeah.
Like he's very religious and he's very sure of himself. And he's just oozes creepy weirdness, and especially when his finger starts to come off, and it's just like black or hideous. But yeah, what about you, sir? What do you think of the performances?
I loved it. It's like I think they all sort of brought like something cool. At the same time, I don't think any of them were amazing.
Oh, not even the main Eliza.
I thought she was good. Like, you know, I got more into the story of and what the movie was trying to say, rather than what they were doing. Okay. You know, I like this. The sign language was a great sort of communication tool, and I like how rather than bringing it up as like subtitles at the bottom of the screen, it's also near her face. It's like her talking visually. Sure. I thought it was really cool. The relationship is still super weird between her and the fishman. I'm just gonna call him the seaman.
Sure.
just for funnies. Yeah. So the relationship between her and the seaman is sort of interesting, but I understand it because it comes from two people that can't communicate. You know, they can't communicate with the outside world, and they found a way to communicate, and I think that's really quite nice. And then you kind of led to believe that she may. You know, this is how my wife interpreted it anyway. That they may be somewhat connected in another way. You know, she has weird slashes on her neck, kind of like gills, and and they explain why she's attracted to him, and it's weird stuff. And it was. There were moments where the movie said exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, well, how are they gonna fuck? Like, where's his wang? And then 4 seconds later, the woman's like, well, how'd you fuck? Where's his wang? And like, there's a visual image of like, I'm like, okay, cool, that's what I thought. The style of it is fantastic. I do love that sort of 60s version of the future, and a lot of like CRT green, and it's very cool. Very like I think the right word for it. There's it's a very particular style, and I can't think of the right word.
The
for
Art
it.
Deco kind of.
Yeah, Art Deco, like art, like futuristic. Yeah, kind of like alien future. Yeah. I thought it was really cool.
Again, with Michael Shannon, I just thought of the part where he like washes his hands before he goes to the toilet. Like, never trust a man who does it both, like do one or the other, and then he's like eating his lolly. Yeah. I'm like, that's weird, but it kind of makes sense, but it's weird. It's just a weird thing to do, and that he's so casual in front of them. He does a lot of weird things, which I love.
Every good villain eats. He
eats.
Yeah, man.
He does eat those like little candies.
Like there is something awesome about a villain that eats when they're like fucking with you. And like
Lex Luthor in
except for that. Well, but no, it's kind of the same point though. But like in the I think it was in Skyfall.
Oh yeah.
You're sitting there munching on fucking carrots.
Okay.
There's something about cool villains that eat. I don't know what it is. They just
casual.
Catch my interest.
So relaxed.
Yeah, because it's just kind of like this. I don't give that much of a fuck about you. Yeah. I'm gonna sit here and munch on this food.
I can see that.
Like Hans in Inglourious Basterds. Yeah.
Drinking milk. He loves his milk. So I like the idea, and Guillermo del Toro said this as well, where the woman, the main actress Eliza, Sally Hawkins.
Yeah.
Say that. She doesn't have like a traditional beauty. It's not Jennifer Aniston. It's not Jennifer Lawrence. It's not Natalie Portman. But she has like this inner glow to her. So I really liked that they went for that. And he made the movie at $9.5 million, but it looks like so much more because they really stretch the budget. The opening sequence is underwater, where it starts in the apartment and she's floating, and it's just like a storytelling element.
Would this be like a noir kind of style? I'm trying to think of the word. I was looking for. No?
So.
Okay.
And apparently they did that all practical, where it was all on wires.
It's fucking cool.
And then they just digitally put bubbles and water effects over the top. And so, again, low budget thinking. There's a big dance sequence. What did you think of that?
That was nuts. Like, I was like, all right. But it's clearly like in her imagination. Because what they did was a really kind of almost like a theater move where he froze. Everything dimmed and a spotlight. I'm like, that's some theater shit. And then it kind of, she stood up and sang and sort of like, this is her internally.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
And then to her, so I sort of transitioned back to her signing what she was singing. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool. I mean, she loves watching musicals. So that's where she gets she dances along, and she's got like this voice in her head that people can't hear. So that's cute. I like the idea of it more than... Like, it's not executed badly, but it's not quite there, which bothered me. Like, I never got that the creature was into it as well.
Yeah, me
like, especially when there's a part where she leaves him at home. She frees him from his imprisonment, takes him back to her house, keeps him in the bath. And there's a part where he eats the cat, and then Richard Jenkins is like, no, don't eat the cat, that's our friend, and it kind of slashes him because it's a creature. It's not a person. It's a monster. Well, not a monster, but it's an animal. You know what I mean? And then I never got the sense after that, because they really hit that home that he's not a human. He is an animal at the end of the day. So you can't treat him like. You can't treat him poorly like Michael Shannon was, but you can't treat him as if he's an equal. And then the creature was never really like, yeah, I'm into this. It was always like her kind of leading him to do everything.
But I think that sort of comes down. I think this could be a sort of commentary on like the animalisticness of love and affection. In the same way of like this, because love for someone can be an unspoken thing. It doesn't need to be talked about. It doesn't need, like, we as humans, we overanalyze shit. It's what we do. You know what I mean?
True. So it's more of a basic.
I think
pure...
I think it's more of a basic animal function, sort of a base connection.
I can go with that.
That's the only way I can explain it.
The movie
makes sense.
Very early sets up that it's not a children's fairy tale. Like, she's masturbating in the bath at the start.
Yeah, it was like boobs straight away. I was like, all right.
Yeah, and which is like her routine in the bath in the water, so that when they have sex in the water, like her sexuality is portrayed through being in water. So the thing that I always wanted to do in life and still do one day.
In the water.
That one too. Just they close the bathroom door and fill the room up, and the whole room fills with water.
So you know what's so funny? My wife goes, "That can't happen," and then like she puts the towels. She's like, "That's like about the door, about like the floor." And next thing it starts dripping through the floor, and then,
but even then,
it's missing through the door, and May's like, "All right, good."
But even then, you wouldn't be able to do that. But I want to be in like the Bacta tank from Star Wars where Luke Skywalker's in the water. I always wanted to fill the shower up and just.
I've always wanted to do that with the shower.
Right
yep,
up.
Yep, true.
That's my dream.
Like even though my crippling fear of like drowning and shit, like
even then I just like to.
I think it'd be fine. As long as I can just go like push up the door, it'd be fine.
Yeah, I just like to go above, but I'd love to do that one day. So let's make that happen. But yeah, outside of that, at the end when they kind of say like he's this god. Like the people back in South America used to worship him as a god, and then he gets shot at the end. Spoilers, and then like shoots the bullets out.
Yeah, kind of like
heals them up.
Kind of like Logan's it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then and heals and brings the hair back of what's his name?
Brings the hair back.
Yeah. There's a scene where he holds his hand.
Yeah, he kind of makes Richard Jenkins young again by kind of
by healing his arm, and then
he glows like blue.
He goes. He looks in the mirror and then goes, okay. He's like, wait, my wig's over there, and he's like, got the hair back. Very cool.
And that whole part where he goes into the diner and he's like flirting with the guy that works there, and then when he,
so I didn't pick that up, and then Millie's like, oh man, I'm like, wait, what happened? Like, why is he so shitty in him now? She's like, fucking hit on him. Because I wasn't paying attention. Cause
he like, I think he touches his hand as they're talking. He's like, get out, and then the African American people come in, and he's like, get out, you as well.
Like I thought he was.
It's a family restaurant.
Like I thought he was yelling at the black people. I didn't realize that it was. And then he was weird to him. I'm like, what the? Did he defend him? Did he defend the black people?
Well, he did as well.
Yeah, and then Millie explained it to me.
Yeah,
I was
like outcasting these people at that time. But yeah, like you said at the end, she does have these scars along her neck that cause her vocal cords not to work. And then at the end, when they embrace in the water, her scars open up like gills. Like he kind of gives her the power to it. But you think, was she a fish person as well and was left on the doorstep and they just happened to find each other?
They do say at the start she was found at the docks.
See? So I think that kind of makes it like, like
less bestiality
is kind of okay here because maybe they're both beasts. So whether or not it's all part of the fairy tale element of it, but I thought, that's like there you go, calm down. You can make it best picture now.
Because I think that was the one. Millie's like, this is weird. I don't know why she wants to bone him. And then it's like, and then that made it all okay for my wife. Fishy. She's like, okay, that's why. No, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. What do you think its Academy Award chances are? One more thing I wanted to add before that. Again, in the sense of
maybe related, Jess.
Her masturbating in the pool and water, bath and things like that. Again, Guillermo del Toro has like bursts of violence, really graphic violence. In Pan's Labyrinth, the bad guy gets his mouth slit, like has a knife in his mouth, and it slits his mouth. And like graphic special effects to make his like mouth flop.
Heel, yeah.
Because it's like split all the way up to here like the Joker. So it's like flapping. I don't know if it's digital, practical. It looks incredible. And in this one, Michael Stuhlbarg gets shot right through the mouth. And it's very graphic shot. And then Michael Shannon puts his finger.
No, the other guy gets shot in the face.
Yeah, but Michael Shannon picks him up by the hole in his mouth and drags him along. And it's just like, incredible.
It's very cool.
That looks awesome.
Oh, and the him getting a fucking 2x4 in the face, a big blood split.
But even like the part where they're breaking him out of the center, and Michael Stuhlbarg, who's like was he Russian or German or Russian, like the Russian Soviet kind of underbelly guys who were like double agents. Yeah, so the scientist was double agent, and then his kind of worker, what do they call them? Monitors kind of came in, superiors were like, we're going to extract you soon. And he actually, cared more for the science than he did for the country. And he wanted to get it out and, help it. And then they have that whole escape scene. And even that was like exciting. And everything. Even the part where he's like doing he has the knife behind his back when the guys are in the room.
My favorite part.
Yes.
Is when they're talking to Michael Shannon, I believe. And they're explaining this is what's happened. this is like we think it's this many people. We think it's at least a group of 10 highly trained, highly skilled. You know, blah 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 blah, and it's like 4 people.
Yeah,
and like I love it because it's just like this.
Their assumptions.
They're overselling what happened. That was very clever.
Yeah, and even just the hierarchy of like the general's like so in love with him, and then he's like, "You're gonna be fucked if you don't get this thing back." And he's like, and he even says like, "What is the measure of a man who's done all the right things all along, and then he makes one stupid mistake, and he can never be redeemed?" You know, and he's like, "I don't give a fuck. You fucking get that back, or you're done."
He's like, "Yeah, like a decent man doesn't fuck up."
And that makes sense. So Shape of Water, I think, if Hellboy didn't exist and this was in the canon of Guillermo del Toro's like Pan's Labyrinth and Devil's Backbone and this, it would be incredible. And I think a lot of people find it that way. But for me, because I love Abe Sapien, especially in Hellboy, so much, and the way that they realized him, that I'm kind of like, that's just Abe Sapien, man. Like, you're so good. You could have done something different. And that hurts a little bit. That hurts me. Taints it. What about you?
Because like I love the Hellboy movies as well. Well, the first, I've never actually seen the second one.
The second one is actually about him having kids.
What?
Like I watched The Shape of Water and then I played the YouTube clip of that scene. And he's singing and he's drinking and he's like, "Oh, I want to find love," and everything. And I'm like, this is exactly the same as Shape of Water. But anyway, yeah.
Maybe because that's the thing, right? Guillermo's been trying to push for Hellboy 3 for how fucking long?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Look, I have this story that I want to tell about Abe Sapien, but I can't."
Perhaps.
So maybe that's where this comes from.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. I kind of didn't have that dissociation, I guess, because of Abe Sapien. I was like, I understand. I'm like, yeah, they look similar. That's cool. I didn't think too much about it. It was weird, and I'm like, just kind of weird that she wants to bone this fish dude. But like I understood, like once again, it was one of those things like the heart of it comes through, and as you talk about the inner glow of Eliza and her character, and how her intentions were 100% pure the whole time until she wanted to bang him. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it quite a lot.
I'm just saying, because Guillermo del Toro is so creative and his visions are so unique, that it's disappointing that he couldn't come up with a new idea.
Yeah, very true. So where do all these movies sit now that we are 1 week? So we've got one more movie left. Next week it's 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri with a B. Ebbing. Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So we've got...
Was it Epping?
It's Ebbing, because Epping is a suburb of Melbourne.
That's why I thought of it. Ebbing, yeah.
So what's your pretty much ranking at this point?
Well, Get Out, because Get Out's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Shape of Water, because Shape of Water's good. Then The Darkest Hour, because it was unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
Then The Post. Then Dunkirk. Then Call Me By Your Name. Then Lady Bird.
Oh, okay. So mine is Post, Darkest Hour, then The Shape of Water, probably Lady Bird, Dunkirk, Call Me By Your Name.
Ooh. What do you think will win Best Picture out of what we've seen so far? What do you think it will?
Kind of think Darkest Hour's in there. But then again, the commentary of The Post could work in its favour. But I do think, in conjunction with its performance, I still think Darkest Hour's in there with a shot.
Okay, well, we'll find out shortly. It's tough.
Who I want to win is very different, but
they're all different kind of movies. Definitely not Phantom Thread. Definitely not. We didn't even put Phantom Thread in the ranking.
Phantom Thread. That's the bottom. That's behind Call Me By Your Name. That's how bad it was on the list.
I don't know. I quote Phantom Thread a lot. I'm like,
how?
Do you have a gun? Every argument I get in at home. Where's your gun? Do you have a gun? Do you have a gun? And act like a child every time. No, she doesn't like it at all.
Because you said her enjoyed the film, didn't she?
No, she saw the parallels and hated it. But I constantly quote that. Yeah, Phantom Thread's down there. I don't know. Maybe 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. We'll find out next week.
We'll find out next week. I'll see where that sits. I think that'll sit quite high for me because judging by the trailer, I'm like, yep, I'm going to see this movie. And
the trailer is epic. Even if you're not going to watch the movie, just watch the trailer for 3 billboards. It's awesome. It tells a great story. You get a real sense of what the movie's tone is and what it's about. And it punches you in the gut. And it's like, man, this looks awesome.
Yeah.
But for now, that's all we've got. Do you want to do our spiel?
I can. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. All the links are in the description. There is a Discord if you want to come and join the conversation. What else we got down there? There's a Patreon if you liked what you saw and you want to contribute financially. We'd very much appreciate that. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to wear some pop culture shit on your buddy, popculturist.com/shop. These shirts are available there, plus a bunch of others. There is a sale currently on this weekend up until Sunday, upwards of 30% off on shirts, hoodies, phone cases, anything we can schmack our logo on. And Jess says, isn't it based on a true story? No, I thought it was. Turns out it's not.
I watched it and I also thought it was because it's very specific in the events in the story, but no, it's not.
I think they were just trying to tell it that way.
It's just genuine and honest.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Dylan Bowden, and for now, that is a wrap.